So it's time for another gardening week, and I just popped down to check on my field beans and found lots of little holes where the field beans should be, and quite a few little stems that have been chewed off whilst the mice munch on the beans. So I put this net over. I don't know whether it's going to do any good, but you know, you can only do what you can do. And I've sown just another batch of field beans in modules, hopefully enough to fill in any gaps that arise. I think, you know, within a few weeks they'll leave them alone, but yeah, it's always a pain at this time of year, blooming mice. Anyway, that's gardening. So next week I'll be cutting all the tops off my carrots. I always do it at this time of year, and I wonder whether other people do it as well. I find it's a pretty useful technique. The carrots are obviously fully grown at this point, and they are kind of infested under there with slugs and snails. In fact, I can see just here like 3 snails just crawling over the top of this bed, and you know, so there'll be hundreds of others in there. There's another one here. Yeah, there'll be loads and loads under there. So once I've cut the tops off, I can go through, get all the snails out, put a few slug pellets down, get all the slugs out, and that'll mean a lot less damage to the carrots. And that also means once I've got the tops off, I can take the frame off and I can put a cold frame top on here. That'll keep them drier, so we won't get any splitting through excessive water over winter. And it'll also reduce the problems with slugs and snails, and it'll also open up enough space in between the rows of the carrots to plant spinach and lettuce for spring. Of course, the plants keep growing, and so you have to keep sort of trimming the leaves off as you go, but yeah, it's a nice technique. And of course the cold frame top also just reduces the cold a little bit on those really cold days. So last year when it was sort of down to -10 here, it was a bit warmer, maybe -8 underneath there, and that was just enough to prevent any damage. All the carrots that were exposed to the full -10 degrees, they all went to mush. So it's definitely worth doing, I think. But you know, I just wonder whether other people have got other experience, and you know, just share those tips. So as I'm just checking the plot over, I'll just show you something that I probably did that was a mistake. So I put this net over these a couple of months ago, just as a place to store the net really, not thinking it would have any effect on these onions, but I think it just increased the humidity levels and reduced the airflow just a little bit, and as a result a lot of these have really suffered from mildew. And it's kind of in stark contrast to the other bed over there, which I left uncovered. And these are slightly younger plants, but even so, they're just looking so much nicer. This year, I've not done very many undercover salad onions, so I'm a little bit nervous about my salad onion supply over winter. But yeah, fingers crossed it'll be okay. And that has been a big bonus for me, because it's allowed me to have a lot more lettuce beds going into winter. And you know, I never have enough lettuce to get me through December and January. Debbie and I generally don't go short, but we often don't have enough for the kids. So this year we'll see if I can change that, because I am quite well positioned with lettuce. I've got this kind of pretty straggly bed now, but this should last us until the end of the month. And then I've got a few more beds which I'll show you. I've got this bed which is coming on quite nicely, and this is the bed I'm hoping to start harvesting in January. Whether I can keep it healthy until January is another thing, but I'm hoping that I can. And you know, then there'll be sort of a row of lettuces each week all the way through January. And then I've got this bed which I'm hoping will see me through most of December, and all these beds that I'm just showing you now, they'll all get replanted So these will all be things like calabrese and cauliflowers of various different types, and cabbages and things like that going into March. So so I'm kind of quite hopeful. It's looking pretty good at the moment. There's not too much slug damage, a little bit, but not too much. And of course, as it gets colder, the slugs start to slow down a bit as well. Yeah, and then of course I've got this polytunnel bed, and I'll be taking a few leaves off this through December, quite a lot of leaves off this through February, and then I'll start taking some of these plants out in February as well, like alternate plants, so that I can plant into these beds cauliflowers and calabrese and things like that, so my earlier successions of those. So I'm hoping I'll be okay, and of course I've still got lots of Claytonia and lamb's lettuce and miner's lettuce. Sorry, miner's lettuce is Claytonia, but lamb's lettuce, Claytonia and Asian greens, and other things that I can use in the salad mixes like radicchio and things like that. So yeah, I'm hoping every year I try and do a bit better job of the salad harvest in winter, and every year I get a little bit closer. Obviously don't want to forget all these hanging baskets full of lettuce as well, which should give me some nice heads in winter. And I got a few other bits and pieces in the greenhouse at home. Yeah, you might think this is a lot of lettuce, and it does look like a lot, but we easily get through maybe one, maybe two lettuce heads a day in our family. Quite a big family, and so that's 100, 150 lettuces or something like that we'll eat over winter, and there isn't that many here, so obviously we rely on them regrowing the leaves. So I've run out of these plant pots. I've ordered some new ones, but these are the ones I normally pot into. So I've got these little brassicas that were showing signs that they really needed potting on, so I've had to use these pots, which are not ideal because the plants get a bit cramped when they're in these, but these are all I had. And as I mentioned, I've sown some broad beans and some field beans, and when I plant these out, of course it's going to be winter, so it's going to be a bit cold, so I will have to probably plant them out under fleece. So I've also started harvesting some of my Yacon, and so I've taken the tubers for next year from the first two plants that I took out, just pop them in these small pots, obviously in just moist compost, and I'll have to move these to a frost-free place at some point, but right now there's no sign of frost, so for the next 10 days or so, they can probably just stay here in the polytunnel and they'll be just fine. But we don't normally actually harvest our Yacon until sort of sometime in December, but the tubers that we're harvesting now, just that little bit younger, are absolutely gorgeous. So I think next year we'll probably grow a little bit more Yacon if we can get enough plants to overwinter successfully, and start harvesting them a little bit earlier. So that is pretty much it for my gardening week. We are away on holiday over the weekend, so I'm not doing a big harvest. We've had some pretty high winds, so I'm just tidying up all these dead and broken leaves off the purple sprouting broccoli. And with that, I think I'll see you soon.